And welcome to another edition of DSU Inside Perspective. I'm Carlos Holmes, and today we're going to talk about a kind of esoteric issue. We're going to talk about bats, and we're going to talk about white nose syndrome. Here with me today I have Dr. Kavina Volanek. She is Associate Professor of Wildlife Biology here at Delaware State University in our College of Agriculture and Related Science. Welcome, Dr. Volanek.
Thank you, Carlos.
Most people think of bats as a creepy kind of animal, but this white nose syndrome is really threatening the population. Could you tell us what is the ecological value of bats?
Well, bats, as you said, have this reputation of just being creepy, nasty little flying mice. And in fact, they're not mice, they're not rodents. They're more closely related to things like shrews. And because of that, a lot of them are insectivores, which means they eat insects. And a bat can eat, or at least the insectivorous bats, can eat almost their entire weight in insects per night. So that means a lot of them will eat mosquitoes, a lot will eat little biting midges, they'll eat green-eyed flies, the things that we don't like having around, and even more importantly, they eat night-flying insects because bats are out at night. Night-flying insects often are things that attack our crops.
Okay.
Fall webworms, Japanese beetles, some of these, a lot of turf pests, a lot of forest pests, a lot of crop pests, things that eat, soybeans, things that eat corn. And because those are moths and beetles that are flying at night, and those are great targets for the bats because they get a lot of protein from that big fat body in a beetle. And so those are the things that they're really going after. And we would be losing somewhere, if we lost all of the bats, that would cost the agricultural industry somewhere around $17 billion a year.
So now we have this issue of white nose syndrome. And this has really reduced the bat population. My understanding, it's really killed a lot of bats in the northeastern United States and eastern Canada, and now we're seeing signs of it in central United States. Explain what this disease is.
It's a fungus, and it's a cold-loving fungus. The scientific name is Geomyces destructans, which the destructans kind of gives you an idea of what happens. And the fungus will get into the tissues of the bat, and particularly in the areas that get the coldest. So the bat will be hibernating in a cave. The fungus likes to grow at those cold temperatures in the wintertime in these caves where you have a great big colony of maybe 100,000 bats that are hibernating. And it gets on the areas like the nose, the ears, and then it'll get on the wings. And when it gets on the wing membranes, because they're so fine and thin, it's just like that webbing between your fingers, but stretched all the way across their hands. That's what they fly with, their hands. That will start to destroy those structures, and then they can't fly. It also makes them wake up before they're ready to come out of hibernation, and then they wake up and they go out of the cave, and there's snow on the ground. There's no insects to eat, so they die. And it's been spreading, and most likely bat-to-bat transmission, but they're also worried that humans, spelunkers, and people that have gone into caves have picked the spores up, and then transferred it to other caves. And it has, from New York, where it was first found near Albany in 2006, it has spread all the way now to Oklahoma, south to Georgia, gotten into Ohio, and it's devastating the populations.
But among scientists, you know more about it now, it seems like, but you don't know how to stop it. Is that correct?
Right. And there's been a lot of things that have been proposed, for example, putting heaters in caves to make the fungus not grow as well, because the fungus doesn't seem to like to grow in warmer conditions. But of course, caves are an ecosystem into themselves. So you have the problem, if you do that, you could be destroying other cave organisms that are adapted.
Do bats hibernate here in Delaware?
Sure.
We have caves here?
We don't have caves, but they like structures like the forts. The old buildings that have little cracks, and they'll get into those places. In some cases, they will go into people's attics and hibernate there, maybe old barns, things like that. And a few of them get into bridges and underneath bridges, and they'll hang out in the little, the crevices in bridges, and they actually hibernate there. So yes, we do. But a lot of them also leave here from their summer colonies where they're raising their young, and then they fly up to areas like in New York and Pennsylvania where the fungus has become rampant. And so we lost almost all of our little brown bats in Delaware.
Well, we're going to leave it to the scientists like Dr. Volanek to kind of get a grip on this problem, and hopefully we'll figure out what we can do to save our bat population, because our agriculture needs it, right?
Absolutely.
Dr. Volanek, thank you for being on DSU Inside Perspective, and thank you for joining us. Y'all have a good day. We did.